Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and in today's video, I'm going to be covering the combat changes and the game changes for Path of Titans with this new update that came with Spinosaurus' TLC. So anyway, if you are new here, make sure to like and subscribe, and let's just get straight into this video, starting off with game changes. Alright, so I think before I actually get into this, I should probably mention what game changes actually are. It sounds explanatory, and it really is, but some people might still get confused. So, game changes are basically like key parts of the game, like, I don't know, turning. Like, imagine if they changed the button for turning universally, or they changed how turning functioned. It's something like that, just a part of the game that they've changed. Now, the first one I'm going to go through is you can already see it on screen. You might not have noticed it, but there's a little icon next to my sprint bar. You see that? My little stamina bar, you can see? There's a little icon there. It's highlighted. So this is new with this update, and basically it shows up whenever you start sprinting and your stamina drains. But here's the cool thing. When you stop sprinting, it doesn't disappear. It just stops glowing, which I think is cool. Like, this is a cool effect. I love it. It's just a way to show that you are sprinting, basically. For those of you who don't know, sometimes if you've got a lot of stamina or you're not looking at your stam bar too well, you might not notice that you're sprinting. But this little icon basically is just, oh, hey, look, you're running, and then you can toggle it on and off. I think it's just to make it simpler to look at rather than the stam bar draining. Because sometimes it's like if the stam bar, like you have to look at the stam bar draining to see if you're sprinting, and it can be a little bit confusing at times. But now that is completely gone because you can just watch this little button, and I think it's cool. Good job, Alderon. Next up, critter improvement. So they have changed a little bit of Critter's improvements on terms of performance. So they should perform better, and they also have got a little bit of different hitboxes, which I think means that they can attack you better. So that's fun. That means Critters, from what I can gather by the patch notes, is Critters are going to be able to be more dangerous now because they can attack you more accurately. Then next up, we have got audio improvements, with new distant calls being added to the following dinosaurs: Allosaurus, Amargasaurus, Iguanodon, Picnominosaurus, and Stegosaurus, and Suchomimus. Oh god, that's a lot of dinosaurs. So I'm just going to play all of their sounds, go through those, and yeah. So, starting off with Allosaurus, here we are, in nice old Grand Plains. And they've only done it like they did with the Apexes with these new changes, so it's only the broadcast and the 3-call, but let's just have a listen. Here is a Margosaurus. And Picnominosaurus. Here is Iguanodon. And Stegosaurus. And finally, Suchomimus. Pretty cool. Something I do want to take a quick note of is Daspletosaurus never got it. And Dasp was shown in the dev blog as one of the next set of creatures to get it, but Dasp hasn't got any new distant calls. Also, for audio improvements, they've made it so the combat music, you know, the little bongos, that music, that now plays underwater, because apparently it was not. Alright, next we've got map improvements and just general fixes. So this is usually bugs and stuff. This is like the, oh, we fixed this bug part of the patch notes. So I'm just going to quickly go through all of those. For map improvements, they've fixed some volcano rocks lacking collision. So, funny thing, a little bit of a story time. This happened to me whilst I was on stream. I went to Burned Forest on the little volcano, or not so little volcano. You could just walk through some of the rocks. They just didn't have hitboxes. So apparently that is now fixed. They have also done some additional optimizations for the map of Gondor. They've also updated Pandura's Waystone locations to be flatter, because what this was actually doing is you would spawn in from being teleported to the Waystone and die. Just spawn in and die. Isn't that wonderful? But that is all the map improvements. Then we have got general fixes. So again, this is usually bugs with visual effects and stuff. So they've fixed instances where some abilities were still active even though you were sleeping, or in a sleeping state. They fixed animation quality settings, not applying properly when joining a new server. This is usually for PC players because consoles can't change that, neither can mobile, I don't think. Actually, mobile probably can. Then we've also got players are now able to drop items while running. So when you're sprinting, you can now drop items. Pretty cool. They've improved the visual effects of the bright sail and crest. So Albertoceratops, Styracosaurus, Concavenator, Spinosaurus, to give them more of a red color, which appears to better blend in with the, well, not blend in, but show off apart from the. So let's say you're using a red skin. There's currently no vanilla skin that you can have where it is like bright red. So the fact that these now go to like astronomically bright red, they really do stand out. Which is why, you know, if you see Spinos with it, it looks so like wow. It is just incredibly bright. They've also fixed slipstream visual effects not showing up consistently across all devices, as well as fixing rain effects not showing in replays. So that's pretty cool. As well as not following the player. They've fixed particles for some water planes, so some of them I think were a bit too high in the water, so you could see it in the sky whilst the person was swimming. They've also fixed some passive slots not displaying properly, and they fixed the shockwave visual effects not showing properly for Barsboldia or Anodontosaurus. Then they've also done more just optimizations for ground particle effects, and that is all of the major game changes covered. Alright, so this next section of the video is going to be covering combat changes. So this is less so game changes themselves, and more changes to how the game plays. So, you know, combat, fighting, stuff like that. So, I guess the best way to start off with is Dazed. Dazed immunity is double. So it was 20 seconds. Daze someone for 3 seconds, they're immune for it for 20 seconds. That has been improved to 40 seconds now, so you cannot be dazed until 40 seconds has passed, which I think is pretty cool. It's a bit of a nerf, but it's pretty cool. They've also changed the group slot sizes from 10 to 12 on official servers, so instead of having just 2 Apexes grouped, you can now like have an Apex, a Sub-Apex, and a mid-tier all grouped together. That's a 5, 4, and 3 slot if you didn't know. So you can have all those in a group now, which is fantastic. This was basically so you could just like have more combinations of players come through. Because if you're a group of 3 friends and you want to play, let's say, 2 Apexes and a 2 slot, you couldn't do that before. You had to go, fine, we'll go 4 slots and then you can be a 2 slot. But now you can have 2 Apexes and a little guy, or 2 little guys if you choose the really small ones. Then they've also changed the bleed, heal, buffs, and debuffs. So this is going to be a little complicated, but basically, the hides that increase health or bleed recovery, so like the resistance hide or resilience, the one that increased your bleed and venom healing by 30%, that does less now, so it's no longer 30%. But then also stuff like puncture from Kentro, which would lower your bleed heal, and I think Suchomimus' Shark Bite, I think both of those, they are also reduced in how effective they are. So you cannot heal bleed with the hides as good anymore, but you also can't lower someone's bleed healing an insane amount anymore, which I think is a good balance choice. They've also, now the reason why they did this, I actually want to explain this, is because basically you had to have a recovery hide on. If you did not have one on, you would be dead. Like anything with bleed would just kill you. There was nothing you could do really unless they were really bad at the game. And it, you know, you kind of felt forced, like, should I put the bucking hide on? Nah, because a conch will just bleed out my T-Rex. But now that should be a bit easier to avoid. Now, this next one is probably one of the biggest changes with this update, and that is the combat timer. The combat timer has been changed. So, before, the way the combat timer worked was you would get in combat, and you could not heal passively. The only way you could heal was from voice calls. Even some heal buffs that, like the mushroom heal buff or the hot springs water heal buff, that didn't even work because that only boosted your current health recovery rate, which in combat was 0. You just couldn't heal at all. It applied basically a status effect which stopped healing. However, now they have changed it, so instead of stopping your healing by the combat timer or passive or status effect, because it technically is a status effect with the way it applies, it's now only 50% reduced healing. So you can heal in combat now, which is fantastic. Oh, that was a bit loud. Thanks, Location Quest. But basically, so if I get bit by a T-Rex, because T-Rex doesn't do bleed, I can heal in combat whilst fighting this T-Rex. It is slow, again, it's 50% of your health regen, but that's still better than 0. Now, I do want to say something that I don't think... Oh no, Alderon did say this in their patch notes, but bleed does still stop it. So things that, like Allosaurus, they can still stop you from healing in combat. But I still think that's a really good change. I know a lot of people hate that change, or some people haven't gotten around to liking it yet. But I think it's a good change. I've been enjoying it. I like it. It makes it more fair when you're an Apex against a group of like Ceratos or Dasps. It just makes it a bit more fair. But anyway, moving on. So this is more of a stat change thing. So I will be making a video on the new stats, but I'm waiting for Alderon to finish changing them because they keep changing the stats again, like in small little patches. So I'm just going to wait for that to settle down, then I'll cover all of those. But basically, they've changed Apexes. So they wanted Apexes to not be as tanky, which, I don't know, that's a bit of an odd change. But they are improved in other ways. So, good example, Tyrannosaurus Rex. Everyone said that thing turned like crap, because it did, it sucked. But now, it has 800 health, which was its original health a long while ago, but it turns better. They've given it more turning, a little bit less damage as well, but the turning is definitely good. Like, it stops people being able to tail ride you. And speaking of tail riding, they've changed tail attacks. So this is another part of the changes. Tail attacks used to do good damage, no knockback. Then they made them do low damage, good knockback. Now they do good damage and knockback. So they've improved the tail attack damage to, I think, 15. Because currently, or not currently, but before this update, it was 5. Pitiful. But now it's like 15 or some bigger number. I'm not exactly sure. I just know that they hit harder as well as doing knockback still. So this was basically to stop tail riding, because once you tail ride someone, you win. It becomes too easy. No sweat, you win. But that is not all. We have still got 3 more changes to go through. So, Toxin. Now, Toxin was a very annoying status effect. It didn't do anything necessarily unless you was low health, but you couldn't sleep it off. You couldn't sit or sleep to heal it off quicker. Once you had that 5 minutes of Toxin, you had that 5 minutes of Toxin. It was a pain to just have not full health for 5 minutes at least. But now, you can sit and sleep Toxin off, which is fantastic. Hopefully they do this with Paralysis too, because that one lasts a while too. But we'll see, we'll see. They've also changed the swim stamina drain for terrestrial dinosaurs, so like T-Rex or Iguanodon. They now can swim for longer. Your stamina doesn't drain as quick when swimming, so you can now swim for longer as land dinosaurs. Basically to make it easier to cross, because if you've like, I don't know, a good example, Young Grove and Darkwoods, they're a bit separated if you're more towards the ocean. But you can make that swim, it's just very close. Now it shouldn't be as close. You should be able to swim bigger gaps as these dinosaurs. And the final change, this one not too big, but it's still there. Bucking has basically been, I wouldn't say buffed or nerfed, but it's been changed. So basically, before this update, you could spam like 2 bucks a second or something. It was insane. But it wouldn't drain too much stamina. It drained a lot, but not like an incredible amount. Now you can buck slower, so you can't spam the bucking button anymore, but you can still buck decently quick, but it is slower, but it drains more stamina of the person who's clamped you or pounced you, which I think is pretty good. Like, that's a good change, you know? You don't need to spam the button anymore and hurt your fingers or a thumb or whatever, but it still is effective, so it just takes a bigger chunk of stamina whilst also, being a little bit less spammy, which I think is good. But that is going to be every single one of the major game and combat changes for this update. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. I tried to keep it as compact and informative. You could have also just read the patch notes yourselves, but this is because Alderon didn't ping for the patch notes for some reason. This is kind of just me getting it out there a bit. Anyway, so yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe, and also check out the description where there will be a link to my Discord. Feel free to come join that. And yeah, have a wonderful day, everyone. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.